Welcome to another episode of Unleashing the Future Word, a guide live podcast. Shout out to the B2B jam session. And today I have a lovely and special guest, one of the greatest designers in the world, and someone I'm a huge fan of. I follow his work for quite some time. Even when I used to actually live in Austin, so he's actually tuning in from Austin today. But before I get into introducing him, wherever you're tuning in from and watching this episode from, I'm wishing you well. And I hope you're having a happy life. With that said, Oen Hammonds is a designer, mentor, and design principal with IBM. He's designed across the gamut from service design, advertising, to graphic design, interactive, and environmental design, which is just crazy. We're going to dive deep on that as well on today's episode. With IBM, Owen actually works with their employees design to drive the design and implementation of impactful IBM HR experiences by increasing alignment and integration between HR programs, groups, and tools while focusing on the needs of employees. So personalized employee experiences is what he works on, which is really, really exciting. We're going to dive deep on that as well. And this is for their first line and upline managers. He's also an advisor with AIDA, Austin, Texas. Shout out to AIDA. And he's actually an educator and adjunct instructor at Austin Community College, where he prepares students with the practical knowledge to succeed in the future. So whether it be design and advertising, he prepares them, he equips them with the skills and expertise. So I'm really excited to dive deep on him. I mean, as you guys can tell, he's pretty fantastic. Before we go deep on this episode, I want to show love to Brittany who's tuning in. Hey, Brittany. Hey, Mrs. Gordon. Hey, Lataria. Hey, Bailey. How's it going? Good afternoon to you as well as Mr. Steve who's tuning in. Please let us know where you're tuning in from. We're really excited to talk to Owen today. And as we go throughout this episode, if you have some questions for Owen and Steve, if you want to jump into the conversation, feel free to. All right. With that said, let's bring on Owen. Hey, Owen.
Hello, hello, hello. How you doing, Tim?
Doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm really happy that it's Friday.
Happy Friday, man. Wait, so you're tuning in from Austin, right?
Yes, in hot Austin, Texas.
Wow. So how have you been, due to quarantine? What's your quarantine situation like?
Well, it's been good. It's been an adjustment to be home permanently working all the time.
Yeah.
But it's also a positive that I have a very long commute to work from where I live at in Austin. So I don't have to do that. So definitely pluses and minuses. I do miss working very close to the team on a day-to-day basis, but we just jump right into remote work very easily, fortunately.
Yeah. And shout out to Betty, who is a good friend of mine, who's currently tuning in as well for this episode. Shout out to you, Betty. Thank you so much. Aaron is saying he has issues with the audio. The audio sounds great to us, Aaron. So if you have any issues, please let us know. We'll try to see if we can fix it. But I can hear Owen perfectly. And shout out to Angel, who's also tuning in as well. Oh, I would love for you to share a little bit with us about your background. When I introduced you, I mentioned that you've done design across the gamut, from service design to environmental design. And a lot of people don't realize you were actually formerly in the military as well. Share that with us.
Yeah, so I guess I'm on my second life or third life or whatever.
You're living life right.
Right. So yeah, before I even got into design, I actually was, I joined the military midway through high school. I was what was called a split option program, where I joined the military my junior year of high school. I went to basic training between junior and senior year of high school. And then once I graduated from high school, I went full-time active duty into the full-time Army. And I spent a total of 8 years altogether, 4 years active, 4 year reserve, and serving in the military. And at the second half, that second 4 years, I actually was in the reserves and started going to school and started going to taking some college classes. And at that time, it was the community college that I went to, Jefferson Community College in Louisville. It was commercial art. And so, but even before that, even in high school, I was doing some design work before I really knew it was design, because people were asking me, can you do a brochure for me? Can you design a t-shirt for me? Can you design a poster for me? And I didn't really know I was doing design work. I would just happen to be the person who can use the Mac Classic that was in the computer lab and use fonts and like print out stuff, and was problem solving how to like make a trifold brochure without really any type of instruction around it. So it was really interesting to as I reflect back on those things of like how I got into design without really knowing I was on that trajectory into design as well too.
Yeah, you had an entire business in high school. Business, man.
I wish I really knew how to run a business, because I probably would have made a lot of money with all the work that I did in high school.
No, I remember because in high school we used to have, there was definitely people like you in our high school, people that you would go to because they already had their discipline figured out. They either were great at selling candy, or
right. Yep.
So so for you, because you also come from a really creative family as well. So tell us how that shaped your passion for design.
It's really interesting because the work that my family did. My mom did some craft work. My brother was an amazing, and still is an amazing traditional drawing artist. He does it on the side, and his only formal training was high school and things that he did as a kid, and I mirrored and followed that as well too. And so shout out Betty, veterans all the way. But for me, I emulated, and did the same things that they did as well too, and picked up those crafts and mirrored my brother and his, trying to draw the comic books like he was drawing the comic books as well too. And it was interesting that for me, I saw creativity as more of a problem solving ability versus doing art for my sake, because as I reflected on that, I was doing more of my artwork for other people versus for myself. Then, and even giving it away as well too, or not being charged for it or things like that. So it was interesting, as I reflected on that in my career or in my journey, that I've always done creative things in the service of others, and that's kind of like how I treat my career now. It's more of, I'm not doing design for myself. I do it more for others so they can like either have a more enjoyable experience, whatever I'm designing for them then.
Yeah, and I mean that's when it's more fun, when it's a passionate place.
Mm-hmm.
Who are and there's a lot of problems to be solved right now in the world. So I think right now it's like a renaissance period if you're a designer, if you have that design thinking background and mindset. And shout out to Betty, who's also a really passionate designer at heart in a sense, but she does it in a different realm. So shout out to her for showing you love, for being as far as being an Air Force veteran. I want to ask you, who are some of your favorite design leaders that have also shaped your thinking? I know you work with IBM, and they have a legacy of amazing design leaders who work there.
Yeah, definitely. Before I even got into IBM, I worked for a couple of different agencies, and I would say one of the first people and one of the group of people actually that I always lean on and go back to are the first agency I worked at, which was at Benchmark, which became Anthem Worldwide. I had a host of great leaders at that agency that really helped me hone my design practice. Les Hall, John Carpenter, Megan Madonna, Jen O'Shea, they all just kind of took me under their wing and really helped me become a better designer as design leaders that I emulated to. And in a modern sense, in my day-to-day practice now, it's people like Doug Powell, who's the former AIGA president, and now he's a vice president at IBM, as well as a distinguished designer. And he has taught me a tremendous amount from before I even met him. And as I worked underneath him when he was my direct manager, and even now as, continuing to this day as a mentor, as a sponsor, for me, he's been this amazing kind of like, anchor point in my day-to-day world, internally in my professional and even externally, outside of IBM, and how he's handled situations, how he's handled his career, and using him as a wayfinding point, as a leader. And also as a senior leader, people like Bobby Martin of Champion. I met him when we both spoke at Design for Business of Design, and I actually got a chance to sit with him at a lunch counter when we were between sessions and had an amazing conversation with him. And since then, I've been following him and what his company is doing at Champion has been doing. And it's just really amazing work. And just his thought leadership that he puts out there as well, too, has been really, really interesting to follow and, take as a suggestion of like, what could I do to bring that into my experience as a designer?
Yeah. So you have a board of directors of leaders that that have really inspired you.
Yeah, it's interesting. For most of the people here don't know me, but I'm a humongous introvert. But I feel most comfortable talking about my experiences or anything that relates to design. Like I talk all day long about design. And that's how I found that I got myself out of that introvertness of, what am I most confident about in my career or most confident about in my day-to-day conversation. And it's anything that relates to design. And that anchor has allowed me to be able to reach out to those leaders and reach out to those people who are themselves, thought leaders in design, and be able to have constructive conversations. And once you start to have that conversation, that introvertness that I have just goes away. And I find that the conversation is just becoming extremely rich and extremely meaningful to have those type of conversations then.
Wow, that's so powerful, man. And I think one of the things that you touched on when we've had prior conversations is the importance of managing up in your career and also having these board of directors and people who kind of are mentors within your company, but also beyond your company that can advocate for you. I want you to share a little bit more about the importance of managing up. For you, you work now as with the HR group within IBM, and you're in a principal role. But you shared that that's really important. A lot of people lack that skill early on in their career. How can they gain that skill? How should they approach that when they're early in their careers?
I think that the big thing that for us as designers, one, we have to realize and recognize that we have a seat at the table that we haven't had before. We've had different iterations of that, but now as those corporate leaders or business leaders recognize the power that design can have on their experiences or their offerings or the brands that they own, they are seeking and looking to us as designers to bring that thought leadership to them. And as a part of managing up, you have to recognize that it is a two-way conversation. It's not one directional, which I think a lot of designers, when they're new, they more focus on like, what do you want me to do versus what do we need to do to enable a new experience. And that's a two-way conversation where as the owner, like if you're working with a client, like the client has a subject matter expert on their product or their company, and you as a designer are the subject matter expert in design. And so it's changing that conversation from being one directional to be a collaborative conversation. And that's kind of like a part of that managing up with like communicating those priorities and seeking that feedback. And that goes in both directions then. And that's just the start of managing up. So it's changing that conversation to be multi-directional versus one way. but also it's about being able to anticipate the needs of your boss or your manager, and trying to think not just at the moment, but ahead of that moment as well too, just so that you can like be prepared when those conversations either come up or those questions come up as well too, to make sure that you're providing the information or the information's at your fingertips, or you at least know the right people to help you get those answers in as well too.
Man, these are tips. These are tips. I think anyone early in their career should be writing down right now. I want to show love to Betty, who's asking a really great question. You use design thinking methods. What are some of the challenges in getting people to move through the process?
That's a great question, because it's for us as a team, we're HR, and for us as a team, we're trying to transform an organization to be user centric. And one of the roadblocks that we run into a lot of, and we do a lot of advising and coaching. So we're it's not just us doing it, but we're trying to advise others of like how they can do that in their space in HR. A lot of the times what we find is people try to fire hose their team with design thinking. And that can turn into, people get overwhelmed. It's too much for them to try to take in all at once. And one of the biggest things that we really encourage teams, or those we have enterprise design thinking coaches. They people that are like practitioners of design thinking, and they are badged coaches. One of the things that we encourage our coaches to do is to take small bites of design thinking. Don't try to fire hose your team with every single part of the design thinking framework and get your team on board with it. If you're at the beginning phase of a project, only focus on getting your team with doing understanding your user, and maybe just do a persona map and just do that and reflect on it. What did you come out with that? And then, maybe a couple other iterations later, introduce another activity, introduce a new way of working, introduce a new user-centric question that may not have come up previously, and the way that you would have done work. And that way I find is a much better digestible way for the team to take on design thinking versus trying to get it all done within one project or one sprint, things like that. That can, really, make the team disgruntled. The team just doesn't really, it's too much for the team to try to take on and deliver work at the same time as well too. So that's one of the biggest things I really recommend teams to do. Small
bite sizes,
like cupcakes. Like, what are the little cupcakes, or even like lollipops?
That's it. I think, and I've definitely seen organizations that go stir crazy around design thinking because they're so enamored by it and the cultural movement around it. But I think that's actually great advice coming from Oen. And even for Betty, she does a lot of it around the education space, where I think that there's a lot of design thinking necessary in that space. But the more you bite size it, the more digestible, more rationale you can get behind it, and people will more likely embrace it over time.
Exactly.
So, with that said, what is employee experience design, Oen? I think I share a lot about this stuff because we do a lot of work with Guide in the HR and L&D space, and I think a lot of people, this is a new concept to many. So how do you define it, and what got you interested in kind of you going into this new frontier, being someone that's worked in all angles of design in the past?
Yeah. So, we define employee experience design as putting the user of our products and experiences in the center of our work, so that we are creating meaningful, simplified, and measurable experiences for the users. And in this space of HR, it's around anything that goes from before a person gets hired at a company all the way to someone exiting a company as well too. So everything that's from and everything in between. So think about onboarding. How do you create a meaningful onboarding experience that will encourage people to really be engaged from day one or even before day one? Be engaged in the company, and then work, live, and grow at the company. So like, how do we create the right working conditions for them to be successful? How do we make sure that they are growing in their day-to-day work? How do we make sure we're providing the right benefits for them in their work as well too? And then exiting. There's different degrees of exiting, from all amazing like run at the company and now you're retiring. What's that exit experience like? To if a person has to leave the company for whether they're let go, that's an exit experience, and it shouldn't be so painful that they show up on Glassdoor or on social media talking about the negative experience that they had in exiting a company. Then a great example of that is, I don't know if people here were following, what happened at Airbnb, and I've never seen so much positivity of being let go from a company, and and people just chiming in. It's like, here's an Airtable. Let's put an Airtable together for these people at Airbnb. It's like, oh my gosh, like I've never seen this ever happen before. And it's like, that's a positive exit experience that was put on by, Airbnb, the current employees, the former employees, and the whole ecosystem that was uplifting them to help them as well too. Like, wow. Not many companies can stand behind, examples of a great exit experience such as that.
Yeah, they were able to create a complete talent front just for the people who are leaving so they can find new jobs. And, and they also gave the people who they were letting go, they allowed them to keep their computers so they can hopefully find new opportunities with their computers. So really closing that digital divide, because a lot of people can't find jobs because they don't have the equipment.
Exactly.
That's powerful. No, and I think it's so powerful that this is now kind of this new frontier in design, because I think in the past organizations didn't really think about how are we thinking about employee experience like end to end, and to have people now actually spending time on this and designers working with HR leaders, I think it's a telltale sign of what we can expect in terms of the future of work.
Yeah, definitely. And, a lot of people ask us, like, well, doesn't HR do that type of work already? And yes, they do. And a lot of them come up with amazing ideas. But I think it's around ensuring that, the people that they are designing these offerings and experiences for, are in the center of when they are creating that work. And using design thinking, design thinking helps us make sure we're designing the right and creating the right work. Agile helps us make sure that we're doing the work right. Offering management allows us to are we measuring the right metrics to see that what we have designed is actually making an impact in as well too. And those are the three frameworks that we use internally and within our practice of HR at IBM. Of design thinking, agile, and offering management or product management, to make sure we're developing, creating the right experience, building it the right way, and measuring to see what the impact of that is.
Yeah, let me ask you, Owen. Because you're also an educator at heart, and you do a lot of it within IBM, beyond IBM, and with Austin Community College. Where do you see the future of work and education maybe integrating or being transformed? There's a lot going on right now. Harvard recently released that they're still going to do online education, but it's still going to be $50,000 per semester to attend Harvard, and a few schools are doing the same thing. So how do you see things changing from that angle in terms of long-term in the future? And can we design new systems around that? What are your thoughts?
Well, the education system in itself is a model that has existed for a very long time, and it hasn't had it just recently have had some innovations that have come around it with new programs, boot camps, incubator schools, different things like that that are tapping into a market and a need from people that, that may not be the best fit for the traditional four-year universities, or, that don't have the finances to go to get those four-year degrees as well too. And one of the things that I see that we have done actually at IBM is, that collaboration or that partnership with some of these, smaller incubator programs, 6-month, 2-year, 8-month programs where the professional practice is being brought in, and professional leaders are being brought into the classroom to bring much more real world experience of this is what it's going to be like when you graduate. And so that transition from education to real world is much more of a softer landing for a lot of people who go through these programs that have a closer relationship with the businesses that they're wanting their students to be employed at then as well too. And so I see that coming much more closer as a parallel reality to traditional schools as well too. And I think that's going to increase more and more over time. IBM has certain programs where we're starting real early into high school with our PTEC program, which is let's have high school students that are ready to start taking college classes in their sophomore and junior year, and by the time they get to their senior year, they may only need one more year of actual college technical experience or internship even, and they get hired on either at IBM or they can go wherever they want to with this new set of skills that they have developed. And guess what? Their education is free because they've gone through the PTEC program where the cost of that is almost zero now. And so that creates a huge amount of access for students that may have not gotten that type of experience or that education before then as well too. So I can foresee much more programs like that coming out of, not from probably the education side, but actually from the corporations and businesses that are wanting to get people into the workforce with the right skill sets sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So you see more organizations actually blurring the lines between private and public and trying to actually seek out talent way before they even enter into college and creating similar programs like PTEC.
Exactly.
Wow. And also, in a remote first world, offering virtual solutions as well, because PTEC isn't only physical. You can also, connect with employees at IBM online as well, right? Because you guys, because I've noticed the PTEC program. I've actually been involved in some capacity in the past with it, and it's really, really popular in New York.
Yes. Our flagship was in Brooklyn, was one of the first programs, and that's a really successful program, and it's now in different spots across the country, and it's been that virtual moment, particularly now because we don't know what is going to happen with the reformulation of how education is going to be and things like that. It's good that schools are doubling down on providing the right technology resources for students, so that they will be prepared without skipping a beat. Not letting that face-to-face moment be the only way that they can get education.
Love that. Shout out to Betty, who's been a top viewer today. Kudos. We must reach out to high school for future of work skills development. She'd love to learn more about IBM program for youth. Betty, you should definitely connect with Owen. He's super accessible on LinkedIn. I'm sure he could talk your ear off about how you all can collaborate on that initiative. And shout out to Feliso, who is saying, I'm enjoying this one. Thank you so much. Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Let us know where you tuned in from as well. Owen, quick fire round now, because we want the audience to get to know you even a little bit more personally. What are 3 of your favorite design or leadership books that have shaped you and how you lead?
Oh wow. I would say probably one of the first ones that I actually picked up and really read and continue to like read over and over again is Creative Confidence by Tom and David Kelly of IDEO. That book is just amazing in how to bring, you know, not just helping me, be more, confident in, how to bring creativity in the sense of business and business results, but also helping others, that are afraid of the word creative, or they're like, I'm not creative. Like, well, actually you are. You just need to like, be more confident and, own it, and, don't be afraid of your ideas. There's no such thing as a bad idea. The only bad idea is the one that's never spoken about in a conversation. So that book has been amazing. Uh, The Power of Moments is another book. It's not a leadership book, but it's very similar to Creative Confidence. Moments That Matters.
I'm writing this down in case y'all aren't writing this down. Power of Moments and Creative Confidence.
Yeah, Power of Moments is by Chip Heath and Dan Heath. And it's an amazing book about how we think about and talk about, and reflecting, most importantly, on moments that are not just the negative one, but the positive ones, and how we capitalize on them in our day-to-day life, and also, most importantly, in our day-to-day workflows as well too. I find that a lot of the times in the work that I've done internally and even externally, one of the first questions I'm typically asking is like, so what's the problem that you're trying to solve, and like what has been done in the past? And I find that the teams that I interact with have not done that reflection. And so they don't have something as an anchor point or a foundation to look at, to see like, what have we done wrong in the past and how can we improve upon it in the future? Which, if they don't do that, leads them to just recycling or being in the perpetual cycle of doing the same work as is, and not really evolving or growing from it then. So that book is really great in, helping teams and helping individuals, make sure that you're not repeating the past, essentially. Or, repeating the past that matters, that will help you, and, improving upon those things that have not helped you then as well too. And then the final book that I would recommend definitely is Designing Your Life.
That's a great one.
Yeah, it's by Bill Burnett. I've met him a couple of times. He's actually one of our sponsored users at IBM. We work with him very closely with him at Stanford D School as well too, with a lot of work. And it's been a great book. I highly recommend that book for those who just have thought about using design thinking as a way of, can I use design thinking to, really change the way things in my life? And that book really helps you with great activities, great conversations in that book as well too. And he also has another book that's like around working as well too. So two good books. One's about your life as an individual. The other one's about working and using design thinking in your work practices as well too.
Yeah, and I think the other one just recently came out as well.
Right. Yeah, it just a couple months ago it just came out. So it's a really, really great book.
Love it. So we see these action figures right behind you, man. So is this like one of your favorite hobbies? Are you a figurine collector?
It is. I am a collector. It's probably an expensive bad habit, but I don't collect as many anymore. A lot of the figures I collect are non-pop culture. They're from an artist named Ashley Wood, who's actually based in Australia. And he has his own comic book line. And the characters that you see behind me are most of them are from his comic books.
Wow.
But he actually his work is so amazing and it's so detailed that I guess he somehow got tapped by Marvel, Hasbro, and a couple of other companies that own, DC that own, Avengers and all those other different types of comic books, and he's done licensing for other different more of the pop culture characters that we have now then as well too. So so that's I've been collecting them for a couple years. I've taken up a pause on them. I'm kind of out of the room, but also too, it's like it's like
You got to slow it down a little bit. Love it.
Slow it down a little bit.
So shout out to Margarita Perez, who says, "I'm so thankful for this session. Thank you. We're thankful for you for tuning in." She has followed you as a source of inspiration for a while. She wants to ask, she strongly believes in the role of design in HR and employee experience, but here it's not as well known and accepted idea yet where she works. Would you have any advice on how to make a stronger voice for design in HR? Thank you so much.
Oh, yes. Thank you for the question. And I just to give you, some context of how we actually got into HR that may help you is we actually did a micro project to see how design can be applied within the HR space. And before even that, one of the things that I did as a designer underneath Phil Gilbert in IBM Design was I was actually the owner of the onboarding experience for design and offering management, as well as design career development, as well as leadership development as well too. All three of those things fall underneath in most corporations underneath HR. And so before we even were approached by HR to bring design into that space, we were actually doing it on a day-to-day basis. And it was mainly because we wanted to make sure that our designers had the right materials, had the right experience of coming on board into IBM and not get caught up in the traditional corporate onboarding experience. We wanted to make sure that our designers and offering managers really understood what design and what design was doing in IBM as well too. And so from those experiences into HR actually seeing the work that we were doing, they were like, can you do this in HR? It's like, yes, we can. Well, let's do a test case to see what that will be, what that would look like. And we did, I worked on the leading the design experience for what we called career conversations, which was how can we help IBMers and managers have much more meaningful conversations around their careers at IBM. And so we created a platform and enablement around user design thinking. And we also worked in the agile framework as well too. Working with it wasn't just us as designers going off in the corner doing that. We actually worked with HR professionals that were the actual owners of those type of experiences, and created this unique experience that wasn't, that was centered around and based upon how IBMers would use that experience then. And so by introducing that, that new way of working and creating that experience, we got buy-in from the HR leaders like, okay, yes, we can see this happening in HR. Let's bring this team over, which was Damon Diener and myself came over. We created a team and, we started out. And one of the first things that we did actually as a design team and as an employee experience design team was, instead of the leadership coming to us and telling us what they want as priorities for us to do, we actually went out and did user research. We did user research of IBMers, particularly in the manager space, to understand what was their experience, but what were the areas that they needed really good help. They needed help in to be the best managers that they possibly could, because the managers are like the core of a good employee experience at any company. And what we did was we presented that up to the HRB, our leadership, and they said like, oh, wow, a lot of these ideas actually align to some of the things that we saw as opportunities for us to work on. So let's focus in on some of these projects that you have identified already based off of user research. And that's how we got that engagement and that buy-in from our leadership. It was not just them telling us what to do, and it wasn't us telling us we're going to work on this, but it was that alignment of them seeing like, oh wow, we actually identified this, and we validated it through user research then as well too. Yeah. So that's how we did it. So yes, it became a priority with that validation from actual IBMers.
Wow, that's powerful. Shout out to Margarita for asking that powerful question and looking to be an advocate for HR, design in HR in her country and with her company. That is so noble of you. So definitely connect with Owen if you have any more questions. As you can tell, he's a world of insights. And shout out to Nicole, who's been showing us love all throughout this live. She's so thankful that she jumped in. Thank you. Very insightful. She enjoyed this 100%. So shout out to you, Owen, because you are getting a lot of love from my team today. Also, once again, Dot is saying, hot dang, this live is vibing.
Oh, Dot. Hey, Dot.
Herself. Dot. You know what, Owen, thank you so much for coming and joining us on this episode of Guide Live B2B Jam Session. You know, what is your powerful takeaway for our Guide community?
Wow, well, that's a loaded question. I think one of the biggest things I would leave the community with is, we are at a point where in our workforce now where design has such a powerful and meaningful way of changing things. And whether it's at your work, in your life, or what's happening around us right now in the world, design has become just very powerful mindset, not a tool, but a mindset that can really help us really change things in a meaningful way versus, doing things the way they usually are being done as well too. So, take advantage of this moment, take advantage of this momentum as well too. And, let's be the change agent. We all are empowered to be that then.
Man, that's powerful. Man, thank you so much for being an inspiration to so many, young boys and girls who want to be designers but don't know where to start, man. You're an inspiration to me. So thank you so much, man, for finding time to really come on and just share your wisdom with us, man.
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to be here, happy to join. Thank you all so much. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. I see a lot of questions are popping up now.
All right.
But please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm there. I'm present. I'm always happy to answer questions when I have availability to.
And you know what? And the final word today goes to Dot Lung, who says, design is a mindset. The mother of dragons herself has spoken.
Yes.
We definitely need to have you, man. This has been truly a pleasure. We need to have you on a future episode. What do you think, man?
I'm happy to come back.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, man. Appreciate you, brother. Talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
With that said, that was another episode of Unleashing the Future of Work, a Guide podcast live B2B Jam Session with the man himself, Oen Hammonds. If you're interested in being a part of our Guide app beta, please check out guideapp.co and sign up for our early beta. Owen is one of our amazing Guide creators that will be on our platform, as well as Dot Long, who is the mother of dragons herself. So we're really excited to expand our beta to amazing creators as well as people eventually. So definitely check out guideapp.co or share the link to guideapp.co yourself, to your friends, your teammates who are interested in joining our platform and our movement. With that said, thank you all so much, Aaron, Margarita, Dot, Nicole, Betty, for tuning in to today's episode. If you have any ideas on anyone I should interview next, please let me know. I'm always looking for feedback and requests, and we'll definitely give them our platform. With that said, I'm wishing each of you peace, love, and abundance. Talk to you soon. Have a great weekend, y'all.